Yo, what's good guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make ambient melodies like Pvlace or CuBeatz. This sample in particular I thought sounded really unique, so I figured I'd show how I made it. And as usual, it's pretty simple but tasteful with the effects and the sound selection and everything. This sample is from Prism Volume 1. It's got 20 melodic and ambient samples similar to this one with Pvlace, CuBeatz, Wheezy type of vibes. So, I'll leave a link down in the description for that if you're interested. But anyways, like the video, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get right into it. Alright, so as you can see, I have the sample pulled up here. We're at 144 BPM, and the sample is in D minor. I'm gonna just go ahead and play through some of the different sections of the sample so you can hear how it sounds, and then as usual, I'll go through and break everything down. And then for the rest of the sample, it just repeats just without the bass. But yeah, as you can hear, very ambient, very melodic. Definitely sounds like something Pvlace or CuBeatz would make. So yeah, like I said, let's get right into it. First thing that I started with in this sample was a piano. So I pulled up this Noir felt piano and I pulled up the scoring felt preset. I just laid down this simple pattern right here. Like I said, we're in D minor, so the root note is at D. And then I had this note down here, this A note down here. So I just built a simple chord with the root note at D, pitched that up an octave. So I had two D notes, D5, D6, and then I had a note at A. And what I did is I just pitched that up an octave. And then I came up with this little melody in between. And then for the second chord, pretty much the same thing, a little bit different. It's the same chord, but that D note is raised up to an E. And that, to me, kind of created like a lot of tension. It sounded like very, I don't know, it just sounded good with the first chord. And then I came up with a second melody to kind of counter this first one. And then all I did is I just copied that over, same exact pattern. And then for the last chord, I just changed the root note from D and put it down 5 semitones to A. And then at the very end, put the root note up to C. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just play how it sounds. You can hear it with the effects and everything. So it's kind of like melodic, kind of dark at the same time, and that's kind of what I was going for. And all I did for effects is I just added an EQ to take out the low end, and then I added some Valhalla reverb. Okay, the next thing that I did once I had the piano is I found this one shot right here. And I just changed the parameters so that the attack is all the way down, the hold is all the way up, and then you can change the release to how you want it, whatever sounds good for the one shot. But anyway, it's just a bell, and I laid down this pattern right here. Usually for counter melodies, I'm very intuitive. So I was playing the keys that I just showed that I laid down, and I was just kind of placing notes along with the keys, like whatever sounded good with it. So like I said, very intuitive. I don't really think too much about it, but this is what it sounds like. And it just repeats. But what I did in the pattern, as you can see with this halftime automation, is I have parts in the sample where the bell is at 50% halftime. So I have it like this, 50%. And then I have parts where it's fully halftime. So it sounds like this. But as for the effects for the bell, I just used Finisher Micro, add this Infinity preset that just kind of adds a little bit of high end, an EQ to EQ out some of the high end and some of the low end. Like I said, halftime at 50% and then 100% at other times. Sketch cassette to add some wow and flutter, some reverb, and then I have another halftime at 10% to kind of add some more mid, like lower mid frequencies in the background, and then another EQ to EQ out more of the bass, and then fresh air to kind of compress the sound and make the high end stand out a little bit more. So here's the real sauce of the video. I wanted to add something unique, so I found another one shot. key right here, and I did the same thing. I put the attack all the way down, hold all the way up, and then I changed the release to how I want it. And I came up with this pattern right here. This was kind of like a counter melody. There was no real thought into it. I obviously started at the root note, and as you can see, the second part right here is pitched up an octave, but again, I just kind of went with what sounded good. The sauce is really not the pattern itself, but it's this right here, slide notes. What you can do with one shots is you can basically make them sound completely different by using these slide notes. So the way that I laid down this pattern is I wanted like a weird lead sound, so I'll go ahead and play it just so you can hear how it sounds, and I'll explain exactly what I did. So it sounds just really weird. It almost sounds like an alien or something. But what you do is you just add these little notes right here, double click it, and you click this right here and accept, and it'll make the sound slide. So without it, first note just sounds like this, and with it sounds like this. So the longer the note, the longer the slide will be. So I just added these slide notes, again, just whatever sounded good, and came up with this pattern right here. Thought that was really unique. And for the effects, I just added sketch cassette again to add more wow and flutter. I actually used the chrome comp preset right here that makes it sound a lot more bright. And then I added some reverb, Valhalla Uber mod, and then an EQ just to take out some of the frequencies that I didn't want. So again, if you're ever looking for something unique to add to your samples, you can always mess around with one shots and try to add these slide notes. I've had one shots that I made sound like flutes or whistles, and they sound realistic because of the slide notes, but really that's all it is. It's just slide notes. So. Next thing that I added is a little accent from this Contact Bank Sonic Forest. I think it's by Sonuscore. It's just good for like weird ambient sounds. So I just have this one note playing in the background. I'll go ahead and play it. And then for effects, yeah, I didn't even add anything. I just panned it to the left and I put a little bit of stereo on it. The last thing that I did for this sample is I just added a bass. So I just controlled it so that the hold is all the way up and everything else is all the way down. Make sure it's cutting, and it just sounds like this. Really simple, just follow the root note. And for the effects, I just added Decapitator to add some distortion to it. I used the Beefy preset and Decapitator to add some distortion to it, and then an EQ to take out some of the high end. Once I had all the sounds, I just layered it out how I wanted. As you can see, I just have different parts going throughout the sample with the bass, and then I copied that same pattern over for a second part without the bass, so whoever chops the sample up can use it with or without the bass. And then I have the stems at the end of the sample as usual. And then once I had it all sequenced out like that, I just rendered it out as an audio file, brought it back in, and I messed around with the pitch. Usually I would try to change the pitch, but it sounded best where it was at. So I left it at D minor, put it to its own mixer track, and I added some effects. So I added a little bit of fresh air to boost some of the highs, make it sound more clean. Took out some harsh frequencies, added virtual tape machine to add some tape effect to it. And then I added this plugin Soothe 2 that kind of takes out harsh, like unwanted frequencies, and it does kind of what the name of the plugin says, and it makes it a little bit more smooth. And then once I did that, I added this little texture. Barely hear it in the background, just like a white noise texture. I have Maximus to turn up the volume a little bit, and that's it for the sample. Like I said, nothing too crazy, kept it pretty simple as usual. Simple samples usually get placed. But yeah, the real sauce in this video is the one shot. Adding the slide notes, you can just come up with some really unique sounding sounds to add to your samples. So like I said, this sample is from a sample pack that I just dropped called Prism Volume 1 with 20 melodic and ambient samples, kind of like this one. I'll go ahead and leave a link down in the description for that if you're interested. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video.